While fanfics, membershipping, and excessively babying idols have already been strange enough to people outside of the K-pop league, which you can all watch here if interested, the strangeness of all these things combined is still nothing compared to the scariest conspiracy theories that detective-born netizens have developed over the past years. What's even more intriguing is that, while some of them have just been figured out several weeks ago, they are literally the biggest and most mind-blowing theories, since there are no precedents, and no one could see them coming. Number 1. Kim Garam being used as an attention bait to push LE SSERAFIM's reputation. Even if you're a newbie to K-pop and were just born yesterday, it's still certain that you know at least a thing or two about the bullying scandal of Kim Garam, because it's simply too big to ignore. A little recap about what happened, in case you still haven't gotten the full story, is that just one day after Source Music released Kim Garam's individual teaser, several accusations were posted on famous forums in South Korea, saying that she has always been a terrible bully since she was still in secondary school. The victims on her list were said to be as long as an arm, and as time passed, more evidence was also brought up to consolidate the allegations. However, as entrepreneurial and strategic as HYBE is, their crisis management this time was said to be confusingly terrible, as even when all the evidence was against Garam, HYBE still stood on her side, saying that she was being defamed by jealous netizens, and the accusers would be taken legal actions against for their malicious intentions. Not only that, the response was even made just a day after the scandal broke out, which was very different from the way they handled the negative reactions when GFriend was informed disbanded. Netizens spotted out that HYBE staff was faking defending evidence. And most recently, Kim Garam was said to be temporarily withdrawn from the group to mentally heal from the attack of netizens, rather than being kicked out of LE SSERAFIM for good. To some, HYBE was extremely stubborn, ridiculous, and a big example of treating the public as clowns. They also believed HYBE was holding onto Garam because she had the potential to make it super big, like Jang Won-young. However, do you know what the plot twist is? Well, instead of saying HYBE was hypnotized by Garam, there were lots of people who believed she was just a pawn in the big game of capitalists, whose ultimate goals were always money. By that, it means HYBE has already known about the dark past of Kim Garam right at the moment they took her on board, and also forecasted the future where her victims would raise their voices and cause a huge public uproar. One solid proof brought by netizens was that her bullying was sorted to degree 5. And according to South Korean law, this type of bullying could only be erased 3 years afterward. And if it's true, everything was still in Garam's history, and HYBE could easily see it, even if they just overlooked her report. So basically, the company predicted everything that is happening now, but still decided to debut such a controversial persona because it would keep mouths talking non-stop, maintaining the heat of LE SSERAFIM without them having to spend a penny. Plus, as the group also had 2 super-duper famous ex-members of IZ*ONE, Sakura and Chaewon, and talented idols like Kazuha and Yoonjin, keeping an alleged bully to make people criticize the group also resulted in a counter-reactions by fans of these members, implicitly raising the love and empathy for them out of the belief that they were wasted just for a scandalous member. This conspiracy theory even predicted that after putting Garam out of the limelight for a while, HYBE would test the public reactions towards the 5-member lineup, gauging how much love people would shower the girls in, and eventually, kicking Garam out of the group to prove that the company was all ears to netizens' feedback, willing to fix the mistakes and always defending the weak for justice. Basically, this theory said all HYBE's moves until now didn't come from the intention of keeping Garam in LE SSERAFIM, but rather to sacrifice her reputation to push the group quickly to the top. Number 2. V and Jennie's dating scandal was set up by their own agencies. Related, but a little bit different from the first conspiracy theory, this one is built out of the belief that HYBE was trying desperately to save the reputation of Kim Garam, and because the scandal is so big, they have to use something bigger to sweep the dirt under the rug. So what can be bigger than the scandal that not only the whole South Korea, but many people around the world have known? Well, it's BTS, and particularly, the dating news of a member in BTS. In fact, when the situation escalated, people had already heard on the grapevine that the dating life of a BTS member would be exposed to distract people from Garam's case. But the thing they didn't expect was that the news would come this early. That's why some could immediately point out the fishy points in the alleged photo capturing V and Jennie hanging out on Jeju Island, and conclude that HYBE had photoshopped this picture themselves to shift the attention, and especially the heated discussion, away from Garam. Particularly, netizens pointed out that it was ridiculous for 2 top stars in K-pop to not cover their face while sitting in a car with non-tinted glass. Second, V in this picture looked very similar to his scene with J-Hope in BTS in the Soup 2. And last, Jennie's hair in the photo was black rather than ginger, which was extremely illogical, because Jennie had already changed her hair color to ginger around April 10th. Another theory around this case is that the picture wasn't photoshopped at all, and V and Jennie actually went on a date. However, this date wasn't because they were in a romantic relationship, but rather because HYBE and YG Entertainment had colluded to do the media play, which actually made a lot of sense, because both BTS and Blackpink were preparing for a comeback after a super long hiatus, while the scene has become way more bloodily competitive because of many promising Gen 4 idols. Essentially, this was a win-win strategy, devised by big brainers, and there is a real, tangible benefit behind it, so some believed this theory made more sense than the first one. Number 3. Dating scandals are used as government cover-ups. While there are more and more people trying hard to convince others that idols' dating should be normalized, because this belongs to the personal rights of a human, the cold, harsh truth is still that the romantic relationships between idols will hardly ever be regarded as a normal thing. Why? Am I being too certain and jumping to conclusions too fast? Well, not really. And as seen many times before, idols' dating is forever a hot topic, because it not only gets people clicking on titles, which ends up making tons of money for news outlets, but because it's frequently used to cover huge political issues in South Korea. While it seems like coincidences when dating news of big stars in the K-industry and controversies of big political figures were often reported at the same time, many netizens believe that it's always planned by powerful people to make the political and social climate less intense, and make people forget them easily. One of the most salient pieces of proof was back in 2021, when the big wave of bullying scandals took over the K-pop industry, and many famous artists were accused of being bullies back in their schooling days. And all of a sudden, Dispatch revealed that Jennie and GD had been dating for more than a year. Since both Jennie and GD were extremely famous, and people had also never seen their dating coming, discussion was immediately diverted to how and when their love story started. This also released the pressure that the accused idols and their companies bore, because to a certain extent, not many would focus on the bullying scandals. And so, idols and their companies could have more time to devise sensible crisis management plans. Plus, this could stop the bullying accusations from spreading like wildfire, because 1. The trending keyword bullying would be replaced by dating, and 2. When allegations were made, people wouldn't care that much because attention was split. In August 2019, the same trick was also pulled. When the political climate was super intense because of 2 big events, North Korea was testing their missiles and South Korea's economy was in crisis, leading to a demonstration on August 15th calling for Moon Jae-in's resignation, somehow the dating between Jihyo and Daniel was revealed. Sensing the fishy smell, people started to track down the whole story and found out that before the dating news, Naver was caught deleting anti-Moon comments. But as this didn't work, Jihyo and Daniel's private life was brought into the limelight. In fact, this scapegoat thing has become so familiar to K-nets that back in 2020, when Momo and Heechul were revealed to be dating, people immediately raised questions like, what happened to the country this time that there's another celebrity-related news? Did the government do something wrong again? And the government probably needed to cover something. So, do you think any of these conspiracy theories are true? Or are they all in the head of K-pop delulus, as called by some people? Comment down below to share your thoughts with us. Also, remember to like, share, and subscribe to BeBoss TV for more interesting K-pop content. Thank you for watching.